Church leader tools are meant to provide information, but sometimes we also need inspiration. And I recently had a passage of Scripture speak to me. I hope it is a blessing to you as well. It comes from the very beginning of the book of Joshua, and the great Moses is dead. Moses, who talked to God after many years of silence, Moses, who stood up to Pharaoh and led the Israelites to safety, who kept them fed and watered in the desert, Moses, who spoke to God face to face, is now gone, and Joshua is in charge. How frightening that must have been for Joshua. In Joshua's day or in our day, to be the leader of a faith community is challenging. People are looking to you for answers. Times are changing, and what direction to pursue and how hard to push are questions that leaders have always had to face. But God had a great promise for Joshua. The promised land is laid out there before him. All the boundaries are described to Joshua, except for a little problem that it was inhabited already. But God promises, just as I was with Moses, I will be with you as well. That is a good word for all of us. Just as God was with Moses, and then later Joshua, then still later King David and the prophets, the early disciples, the Apostle Paul, and for Christian leaders through the years, as God was with St. Francis and Martin Luther and Dietrich Bonhoeffer and Martin Luther King Jr., just as God was with them, God will be with us as well. Just to make it real clear, God says to Joshua and says to us, be strong and courageous. That we don't lead from our own strength, but whatever the challenges before us, God will deliver on God's promises. And just in case we missed it, it's repeated again. Only be strong and very courageous. And then goes on to explain, simply be faithful. Stay on the path that I have laid out for you, and you will be successful. And in that way of Jewish poetry, often in the form of a couplet, it gets repeated again, describing how to stay faithful to the directions that God has given, that we would be prosperous and successful. And then one more time, just in case you didn't get it in the first couplet, it gets repeated once more. Be strong and courageous, with no fear or dismay. For God is with you wherever you go. That is a good word that Joshua needed and we need, that we can be strong and courageous in living out our ministry because God will be with us. Of course, I don't know what challenges you face or how you feel about them, but probably like Joshua did, looking out over the promised land, we get frightened and dismayed. But just as God had a good word for him, God has it for us as well. If you need a reminder of that good word, you can download this graphic, print it, and put it where you will see it. And remember that God has commanded. God didn't ask, God commanded. Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. At the link below, you can find further resources, and make sure you share this with someone else who needs this good word. God bless.